has Jace Memory Adapters. Basically, it's only really good win condition. It's only great way to end the game. And he's up against Owen Turtenwald, who's sort of got the a little bit of the aristocrats thing that you can do in this format if you have enough things like Barrage of Expendables, enough sack outlets, combined with 3 active trees in Owen's deck. So,
and Owen does have a lot of sacrifice outlets. He does not have Barrage of Expendables. He just wants to see Essence Scatter take care of that creature there for Turtenwald. Again, Levin is on a mulligan to 5 right now. And Turtenwald's deck doesn't really beat the gates down because very few decks actually do that in this format. Can't really take advantage of a person who does mulligan really low. You see, like, his first relevant play right now is going to be the Death Gates Cockatrice, which is a 4-mana 2/2.
Yeah. The, Domestication's going to take the Cockatrice right out of the sky.
Yeah, and Domestication, like, the thing about this card versus Mind Control is, like, Mind Control you would wait until something awesome comes, but Domestication, you know, I don't think...
You just sort of take what's available.
Yeah, you don't take, like, the first threat. Like, I think this is worth taking, though, because it does have Death Touch. I can actually kill something. Yeah. And Domestication has been moved up to a rare, but I don't think we're ever going to see Mind Control in a base set again, because it was actually, like, too powerful.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to use Active Treason to get back his own Death Gaze Cockatrice. I would anticipate a Altar's Reap here.
Yeah,
Yep, there it is. To draw 2 cards, to be able to get some value off of that, so the Domestication does not become a 2-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, feels like a pretty, like, if I'm Levin there, I'm pretty happy with that exchange, I think.
Yeah.
So here's a Messenger Drake. Yeah. Messenger Drake, from Indy is going to pass the turn back to Turtenwald.
And that's the only thing that's on the board right now, so...
I think I'm happy with that because, like, Active Treason didn't, like, ruin me or anything. Like, it did, like, pretty good, but nothing great. So Turtenwald going to follow up here with a Child of Night and an Accursed Spirit, a 3/2 Intimidate and a 2/1 Lifelinker.
Now, with all of the sacrifice outlets in Owen's deck, he also has 3 Active Treasons, and Messenger Drake is one of the best ones to be able to take, swing with, and then get even more value off of your sacrifice outlet.
We saw him do it earlier in round 4, too.
Owen only has 5 mountains in his deck, and he's drawn 4, so he might be a little bit bottlenecked on black mana.
He's going to play land, plays a swamp. His last card in his hand is Active Treason. He's going to pass it back, so he does have 7 lands. You see Levin for his turn draws a Shivan Dragon. He also has a Disperse in his hand as well, so we might see Drew go on the offensive?
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly, or he's going to hold back. And the reason I think he's going to hold back is I think he knows about Turtenwald's deck. I think he knows that there are a ton of Active Treasons here, and if he is to attack that Messenger Drake, yes, he's going to get him 3 points of damage, but Turtenwald can Active Treason, take the Shivan, and bash him for a ton of damage.
Absolutely. And another interesting note about Owen's deck, I don't know if you guys have talked about it, he does have the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to be all 3 pieces, the Cauldron, the Newt, and the Witch.
And we've seen it in play multiple times when we've watched him today. And when you do piece that combo together, it is pretty good. So here comes the Shivan. Here comes the Pump.
So here's 8 damage. I think that Drew, he decided that he's caught up enough to the point where he is fine walking directly into whatever elimination spell Owen would have.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is that the elimination spell that Owen can have there for that basically is just Doomblade.
Yep.
Like, Liturgy of Blood is a sorcery, and so he can actually... It's a lot safer in this format as opposed to it would be in most formats to just attack with Shivan Dragon, pump 3 times, and expect for it to work and not get punished.
Yep, in Owen's deck, he only has the 1 Liturgy, which is a sorcery, of course. He also has the Active Treasons plus Sacrifice outlets, of which he has many Sacrifice outlets, although he doesn't have any in play currently. He also has 1 Quag Sickness, but as you see, only 4 Smells. So it would stay a Dragon Hatchling.
So Levin is going to block the Child of Night with the Messenger Drake. He's going to come across for 3, put Levin down to 9 is Turtenwald. Turtenwald is going to push himself back up to 14 and does not play anything. Again, his hand is Active Treason and Swamp and passes the turn back. Levin draws a Divination.
Yeah, if Drew wanted to play the card advantage game at this point, he could, although I think he's pretty well all in on the Dragon plan at this point. Owen's proved that he doesn't currently have an out. He's going to have to live off the top of his deck to find an out to that Shivan Dragon. So I would be, I would not be surprised to just see the 8/5 enter the red zone again.
Now this is really interesting here because like Levin has done like a really nice job of trying to play around Active Treason. I think it's like pretty clear that's what he's playing around.
Yep.
You know, he's making an attack like this on purpose. If Active Treason happens, he's going to block with the Messenger Drake. Also, he has Disperse because he could have very easily cast Divination this turn and chose not to.
Yeah, that's a very dangerous Active Treason should he be able to get it. But keeping up the Disperse in case the Active Treason targets it. I mean, the thing, Owen's out at this point would have been for Drew to have tapped for basically anything.
Yes.
He needed to steal the dragon and then fire breathe it for this last 9 points of damage. But because Drew didn't attack, because he left up disperse, he is playing to all of his outs, and Drew didn't want to spend, instead of spending 2 turns killing his opponent, he's going to spend 3 and not die to 3 or 4 cards in Owen's deck.
So Turtenwald's finally going to cash in. He's going to cast Active Trees on the Shivan Dragon. Now, we know that Levin has Disperse in his hand. The important thing here is when do you use Disperse?
Right.
Because it's very easy to use Disperse right now. But is it better to let him take the dragon, let him attack, maybe put some red mana into the dragon? When do you want to use Disperse? Because now Disperse is still there. Active Treason's going to resolve for Turtenwald, so he has the Shivan Dragon. Now you see him tapping some mana. He's going to play Bubbling Cauldron.
Right. So this is what I anticipated happening, was that Owen was going to have a sacrifice outlet of some kind in his hand. Drew now has to disperse the dragon. If he had the Altar's Wreath, the dragon would just be gone forever.
Yep.
But instead, it's Bubbling Cauldron, which actually lets Owen race really effectively here, if he can continue to draw creatures off the top of his deck. Because this 3/2, it's unblockable against Drew's deck. If he can add more creatures to the board, if he can draw a creature next turn, basically, then he is going to be able to gain the 4 life and race this 3/3 with his 3/2.
And then this is part of the thing where, while I agree with Drew's play of, leaving Messenger Drake back to do some blocking, or play a little more cautiously and defensively, the Cauldron messes up the math now.
Yes.
And, he missed out on a healthy amount of damage by choice.
Yes. I think that he could have either kept up Disperse or kept the Messenger Drake untapped. Keeping up both is too cautious. He let Owen have that little tiny window, and Owen's a great player. He's gonna take advantage of any window you give him. So while Drew made the safe play, it may not have been the correct play.
So now Turtenwald top decks a Nightwing Shade, which can get in the way and can be sacrificed to the Cauldron. So now it's on Levin, because he's facing lethal damage to draw a removal spell to get himself in. Is there a way to clear that Shade out of the way? He draws an island now. He does have redraws.
Divination.
Yeah, and Divination.
So he's going to try probably to dig for, does he have Chandra's Outrage would be my guess. Looks like Volcanic Geyser is an out as well.
So he draws 2 new cards, and I don't think he found any help in this situation.
No, he did not. He has Tidebinder Mage, which is not going to help him against Owen's board currently, and actually isn't going to help him against Owen's deck, as the only red cards in Owen's deck are Act of Treasons.
And yeah, I am with you where, again, Levin played this game very, very cautiously. He did not want to get ruined by Act of Treason. And again, I don't think that he got ruined by Act of Treason, but then, by the way that he played the game, being so cautious, he missed out on some points of damage, and looks like he may end up losing the game as a result, as the Cauldron's going to sacrifice. Turtenwald's going to gain a total of 1 life. He's going to take 3, but gain 4.
Yep.
So he's going to go up to 4, and now we're looking at a Curse Centaur, or excuse me, a Cursed
Spirit.
A Cursed Spirit, thank you. That's going to attack for lethal, and it's going to kill Drew Levin.
Yep.
So Owen Turtenwald does win game number 1.
It's a very thin line that you have to tread between playing cautiously and playing too cautiously.
Yeah.
Because I know that we have always played against players that are just too afraid of board stalls, or too afraid of 2 giant creatures against 2 giant creatures that are able to have abilities attached, and they play super cautiously. They want to have a huge advantage before they commit anything to the red zone. Drew didn't do that. Drew obviously had a measured game plan. He knew what he was trying to play around. Unfortunately, I think that he hedged too far in that 1 attack step, where he didn't attack with the Messenger Drake when he had the Disperse mana. So I think that that's possibly what cost him the game. Also, mulliganing to 5 is never going to help anybody.
Yeah, of course.
But it's a thin line you have to tread, and both players played well, but Owen was able to capitalize.
So we did a quick update for you guys. Huey Jensen does win game number 1 over Jason Ford. We're going to join Reed, Duke, and Jarvis Yu in progress for you. You see on Duke's side, he's got some blue lands, he's got some black lands, got Chaomancer, and as usual, when we tune in to Reed Duke, he does have the Ring of 3 Wishes in play.
That's right. He has made so many wishes today. I think he's only finished about 2 of his rounds, because his opponents have just won, or his teammates have just won. Jarvis on the left there, he's playing mono black. Shocking.
Yeah.
I know. We've seen a lot of mono black actually in the room today. Jarvis's particular version has 4 copies of Quag Sickness, which is pretty much the first common you look for when looking for the black commons. He also has 2 copies of Corrupt, 2 copies of Liturgy of Blood, 0 Nightmares. Just so everybody knows, because we've seen decks.
We've seen a 2 Nightmare deck,
right?
yeah.
And we've seen a couple that had 1, or we've seen 1 that had 1, I think. So, but 2 Corrupt, certainly nothing to laugh at, and 4 Quag Sickness, the main reason for staying mono black. He also has a Bog Brew Witch in play. The Bog Brew Witch, he does not have a he's not playing his Cauldron. He's playing one of his 2 newts, just playing it for value, I think. It's for a small amount of value. This is after sideboard, I believe.
No, we're still in game number 1 here.
Oh, is this still game 1?
Yep.
So is that not the Bog Brew Witch? What is that?
That is the Vampire Warlord.
That is a Warlord.
Yep.
Sorry about that, misidentified the card. Meanwhile, Reed Duke has a pair of Archaeomancers.
And what he did, as you see you casting Diabolic Tutor, is that Duke cast Archaeomancer, played a Wall of Frost, and he played an Archaeomancer, and he got back his Disperse. And this is something that Ari and I have talked about quite a bit, is that Reed is actually able to reset his Ring of 3 Wishes.
Yes.
You know, he can search, he can tutor a couple times, and then either tutor for the Disperse to be able to bounce the ring, or tutor for the Archaeomancer in case he's already used the Disperse to get it back. That is the really interesting about his deck, is that he is actually like a Ring of 3 Wishes constructed deck.
Yes.
He's able to just use it so many times, and he has the ultimate endgame card, probably the best endgame card in the format if you can actually set it up and get to it in Rise of the Dark Realms.
Yep, absolutely. I've seen him put just a million cards into play with it, because all he wants to do is just trade off 2 1s against 1 2s, 3 3s to 3 3s, you know, 3 2s to 3 2s, things like that, and then just 75 for 1 his opponent with a 9 mana spell, which is what 9 mana mythics should do.
I agree.
It's completely end the game.
I agree. So Duke, looking through his hand again, Jensen and Turtenwald both up a game in this match. Duke gonna tap 2 blue. He's gonna play, looks to be a Tidebinder Mage.
Yep, just as a 2/2. No targets in Jarvis Hughes' deck. I would anticipate that particular Grizzly Bear coming out after sideboarding.
Yeah, can't imagine it's very good here.
It is another body to be able to stand in front of or threaten a Vampire Warlord. And we see Blood Baron for Jarvis Hugh, a pair of vampires that are all too eager to sacrifice their friends.
I'm super interested to see what you tutored for.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, unfortunately.
That's what I really want to know right now, because I mean, I can't imagine he tutored for a Blood Baron.
No.
And here's a Millstone. I'm gonna turn over 2 cards.
We'll turn over. Looks like a Corpse Hauler.
You see it, Duke activates Ring of 3 Wishes, so you activated his Millstone in response to turn over 2 cards, maybe catch what Duke is looking for, maybe trying to catch that Rise of the Dark Realms, if that's what Duke is setting up here. Again, Duke just at 4 life, you at 19, so in theory you is doing just fine because he is at 19,
But this is the game that Reed sets up.
Yes.
Every single time. You see his opponent's at 20, Reed's at 4, and then 3 turns later his opponent's dead.
Correct. That is 100% correct.
And so Reed is going to, I'm almost positive that's what Reed searched for, just as the nature of this matchup, is that Jarvis isn't an aggro deck. He's proven that. He's also stuck on 5 now. And he just wants to have that super powerful I win the game card, especially against 2 sacrifice outlets on the other side of the board.
The only thing too is, like, now you see Reed attacking here with an Archaeomancer and a Tidebinder Mage. You know, these attacks look dubious at best. But again, when you're setting up Rise of the Dark Realms, you're going to get everything back anyway. These attacks are perfectly fine, and now he's actually going to attack with the other Archaeomancer as well. So, you know, to me, this is a loud indicator of Rise of the Dark Realms. But again, if you're not familiar with the format, or familiar with playing against the card, because again, this set came out on Friday.
Exactly.
You know, if you're not familiar with these cards, you're going to easily block the Archaeomancers and put them in the graveyard. That's a simple block to me.
Yeah. And I think that this is, there's Rise of the Dark Realms. Getting back a pair of Archaeomancers, one of which will almost certainly return the Rise of the Dark Realms. Being able to also get back Disperse to reset his ring if he so chooses. The long game does not favor Jarvis. However, Jarvis has 2 copies of Corrupt in his deck. He has 5 swamps in play, so they could well be in his hand. So it's entirely possible that Jarvis just untaps, draws a swamp, and then they shuffle up for game 2 with Jarvis as the winner.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing that can occur, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he just tutored 4 Corrupt, and it's just saying, all right, I just need to draw 6 land to kill you. That's all I need to do. And I think that Reed is probably aware of this, since he's at 4 life, understands he's playing against a mono black deck, and is trying to get this game over with. There's your swamp, there's your Corrupt. Yes, sir.
Yep, and there it is.
And that's going to do it.
So Jarvis is going to take game 1 with a swamp off of the top. He had many outs at that point. He's running the full 17 swamps, so not too surprising of a result there at the end of that game, even though Reed, I guess, felt like he had to tap out at that point to be able to race the Corrupt.
Yeah, I think, he's basically casting Rise to the Dark Realms to just be able to bring everything back and just get the job done, and basically saying, I need to get this game over with right now.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Rise to the Dark Realms probably give him enough power to make it so that he's able to kill Jarvis in the next turn, and hoping he doesn't draw a land. Jarvis draws a land, he corrupts him, he wins the game. He's up 1-0 in that match.
Yeah.
As we're going to cut over to our next one, you can see Drew Levin pretty deep in the tank here. You also see Owen Turtenwald giving this turn some thought. You see Jensen versus Jason Ford in the middle. The team of Jensen and Turtenwald currently ahead right now. We're going to cut to Jensen's match against Jason Ford.
Yeah.
Jason Ford with a beautiful board position. You see a Griffin Sentinel, Briarpack Alpha, a Deadly Recluse, and an Elvis Mystic. Oh, with some lands, only 1 forest among them. You see Jensen over there with just the Academy Raider and some lands.
There's Scavenging Ooze, which will help reset the board in his favor, of course. But the Garrick's Horde for Huey is in the graveyard, and that's one of his biggest end-game cards, of course, and very powerful card advantage engine in a deck that doesn't typically have it. And so having that already in the graveyard not going to be a great thing, but he's going to be able to fix most of his draws with the Rummager as opposed to the Looter.
Yeah.
But Jason Ford gets to untap with his green-white deck. I've seen a couple green-white decks around the room. It's one of the less popular color combinations, but because of the raw power that it has to just put giant animals onto the board, like in large,
Yep.
getting people with huge amounts of damage is going to be good enough a lot of the time. Going to overload a lot of elimination spells.
And that's going to be good enough that game. So Jason Ford's going to tie it up against Huey Jensen. They'll be going to a 3rd and final game. So it looks like we'll be able to cut down to Turtenwald versus Levin. Again, Turtenwald did win game number 1 after some very cautious play by Drew Levin. Understandably cautious, but it looks like it did not end up being correct in game number 1. But, take nothing away. If that wasn't mulligan to 5, Drew very, very competitive in that game. So we'll cut to game number 2. You see, for Turtenwald, again, that Accursed Spirit being in play along with Vampire Warlord. He also has...
Looks like a Festering Newt.
Yeah, he's got the Festering Newt, and then Levin just with a boring old Seacoast Drake. But he's got some good cards in his hand because right now he has a Domestication.
Well, he's also a red-blue deck.
Yes.
So they typically keep their awesome cards in their hand for as long as possible.
It's funny because you look at his hand right now, he has Domestication. His hand is unbelievable. Domestication, double Shivan Dragon.
Oh my god. And Jace.
Wow.
He's got a rare binder in his hand.
Yeah, but he needs another red mana to be able to
does.
cast those Shivan Dragons to be able to get himself back in this game, and I understand why he would be a little bit scared to cast Jace right now. I can't even make out what the other red card in his hand right now is, but it looks... I can't imagine it's bad.
Yeah, he's flipping too quick. Couldn't catch it.
Yep. So Turtenwald's going to tap some mana. He's going to rearrange this. He's going to play a Swamp, 4 mana.
And the Witch.
The Witch is here.
Which Witch? That'd be Bog Brew Witch. Bog Brew Witch, very similar to the Rebel Searchers from the Mercadian Masks block, able to search up the Newt that he has in play, which is the only copy that he has. And it's also able to search up the Bubbling Cauldron. When you have all 3 of which in play, you turn on all 3 cards, basically, like the Urza lands. They get much better.
Yeah, you are living the dream, as it were. Levin, just with a Wall of Frost, is going to pass the turn back again. So now the Witch being in play. Again, this is just a 4 mana 1/3, but the pieces with that card are actually so good that it can search up. It seems like it's kind of meh.
It
or
looks
not like
really
a big
underwhelming
deal.
at first, but if you can search up enough pieces, it can overwhelm a game. Especially the Cauldron. The Cauldron is so unassuming until you gain 4 life a turn. And then you just gain 28 life over the course of a game against a deck like this that's kind of slow and doesn't have any really insane win conditions other than Jace obviously doesn't care about your life level. But a Bubbling Cauldron does a fine job of racing a Shivan Dragon, which is a weird thing to say.
It is a weird thing to say, but we watched it happen.
But yeah.
So now, because Levin tried to Domestication that Accursed Spirit, it's gone, which is good. it's gone, which is fine. So now he can actually play Jason, feel pretty good about it, because it's difficult for Turtenwald to actually be able to get into it. Wall of Frost is going to play some solid defense, as is the Seacoast Drake. And he's going to have a hard time actually getting over to it. The question is, does he want to cast that, or does he want to cast, okay, he wants to play Ogre Battle Driver.
Battle Driver. So he did have a full rare binder.
Yeah, he did. He did have that.
Battle Driver's going to give our Shivan Dragon haste, which is nice. Make it a 7/5 the turn that it comes into play, without even any fire breathing.
Yeah.
Just going to get whipped into shape. Meanwhile, Owen's going to continue to develop the Aristocrats board over there. He has a sack outlet, he has the Bogbrew Witch, he has the Cauldron, and he has the Newt. Doesn't even need the Vampire Warlord, really. That's just gravy at this point.
Yeah. The question here is, and you see, again, Drew needs to figure out how he wants to go about trying to win this game, because there's no argument to be made he has the tools to win the game. How is he going to use those tools to try to win this game? That is the question. Does he want to do the Shivan Dragon approach? Does he want to use the Jace Memory Adept approach? Because, I feel like one is right and one is wrong. I don't know which one's right, but he has the tools to win. He has great cards.
I think that the correct way to go, considering how much life Owen can deal and how he can kill a 4/4, so he can kill this Ogre Battle Driver this turn. So the Shivan Dragon's not going to have haste, which makes me think that the correct plan is Jace. That's super dangerous because there are 3 active treasons in Owen's deck, so he needs to pick a very specific time to play it, but that's what I think.
All right, so the 4/2 Vampire Warlord is going to come across. Levin is going to block with Wall of Frost. He's going to trigger that. We're going to see a sacrifice. The Newt is going to kill the Wall of Frost. So Turtenwald decides, I need to get that off of the table. So if you're Levin, you're probably pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and so he doesn't... Owen doesn't care about being attacked right now. And so he doesn't care about the Ogre Battle Driver's trigger. There's a Volcanic Geyser. That's going to be able to deal with... I guess that's going to deal 2 damage to the Warlord if he wants to use it right now, and then that'll sacrifice the Blood Witch, but he's not going to do that. He's just going to play this dragon, start swinging.
The scary thing is that the Volcanic Geyser adds another piece to the equation. I think that's the scary thing for Drew, is because when you have 2 Shivan Dragons adjacent your hand and then you draw a Volcanic Geyser, you don't want to overthink everything. You want to go on a game plan and stick to it, which actually Drew did a very nice job of last game. It's just that he was too cautious with his game plan last game.
And I think that now that he has this Volcanic Geyser, he doesn't just have 2 Haste Dragons. He now has 2 Haste Dragons and a Fireball.
Sure.
So that might change things, because Owen can only gain 4 life a turn off of his Cauldron, and it also costs him a creature every time he does it.
There's a Liturgy of Blood. It's going to take down the first Shivan Dragon. I'm curious to see if Turtenwald knows that Levin has another Shivan Dragon in his deck.
In his deck? Well, he's about to find out.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Another thing to keep in mind here for Levin, because Mind Rot exists in this format, is do you play that land? If you play this land and play the Shivan Dragon, you get Mind Rotted. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare scenario.
Although he did just play Liturgy of Blood, which adds 3 black. I imagine he might have used the Mind Rot at that point.
Trigger. Here comes the Battle Driver. Here comes the Shivan Dragon. Yet again, number 2.
Yep.
He's got the red mana to be able to pump.
Get the extra 1 damage, should he so choose.
Turtenwald's going to block with the Witch. Activation from Shivan Dragon to get another point of damage in, make it 8.
Yep, that'll be 8.
There's an Altar's Reap. This is actually a pretty important card here for Turtenwald. He needs to find some action. That was his last card in his hand. All the active treasons right now are incredibly, incredibly good, too.
Yep. All the copies remaining in Owen's deck. I believe he only has 2 remaining. Yep. I think he used 1 earlier.
I believe so.
That's still a lot of outs. He did just draw 2 cards, and he's got another draw step here.
Active treason is the draw step.
There it is. I think that's going to be able to do it, unless Drew's last card is negate.
That's not going to kill him. He has a flyer back on defense.
Oh, he does have a flyer on defense.
So that's not going to kill him at all. I mean, it's just going to kill the Shivan Dragon.
Right.
That's the problem. 7.
It's also going to deal 4 more damage to Drew, because he's going to have to not block the Vampire Warlord at this point.
4 mana. What's Turtenwald tapping for now? He's going to tap for the Accursed Spirit. Levin's going to block there. He's going to take 4. Turtenwald's going to sacrifice the Shivering Dragon. He's going to gain 4 life. He's going to go up to 12.
Right. So Drew has 6, 7, 8, 9 mana, which means the Fireball would be for 7. So he needs to deal 5 with his 3-power creature, which isn't gonna work. Although
Now that's a good draw.
That's a good draw.
Now this changes a lot because now I think he goes towards the Jace game plan because now he can go Jace. He can play Jace, mill Turtenwald, attack for 3 maybe not, and then Frost Breath these 2 guys so they can't get in to into Jace.
Right. I think this attack is fine. As we see Huey Jensen's number tick up to 2 over Jason Ford on the middle seat there.
So Jensen, Duke, and Turtenwald are going to be up a match right now. They only need to win 1 more, and Turtenwald is currently up a game, but he's in a tight spot right now.
Interesting, just a small interesting fact about that Frost Breath. The artist Mike Bierick also did the art for Frost Titan, so it's the same guy.
Oh.
I always thought that was kind of cool.
That is actually pretty cool. 4 and 5.
So Jace. Tenya.
Yep. Attack your library.
And there's 1 active treason.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so that should be it for active treason. Turtenwald's going to give a count. We'll see if we can get a number on how many cards are left in his deck. If it's going to be 1 more Jace activation or 2, which plays a very, very big role in here. You also see Levin is taking Turtenwald's graveyard and is going to write down those cards. A smart move by him, so he's got more information for the next game.
Yep.
And there are only 8 cards left in Turtenwald's library, so that means that it's going to be a lethal Jace activation on the next turn, so long as Levin can make it to the next turn.
That's right.
And I feel like Frost Breath is going to make it so that that's a possibility.
Yes.
I think the Frost Breath was the card that really changed everything in this particular game.
Yeah, having the mana to be able to drop Jace and use the Frost Breath defensively, which honestly is offensively because Jace is attacking.
Yeah.
Owen has thinned his library to such a point he's drawn 2 cards off of Altus Reap. He's searched out a Bubbling Cauldron with the Witch. He's drawn enough cards basically to make it so that we're late enough in the game that this is going to be a one-shot next turn should the Jace survive and should Drew survive.
Draws a card. It's a spell. Just not quite sure what. You see Huey trying to give the most help that he can.
I don't think that there's a way for Owen to win looking at his deck list. However, that doesn't mean he's going to give up here because he doesn't know the Frost Breath exists.
Yeah. And with Levin at 5, it looks like that he's just good to go. That's, of course, not the truth because of Frost Breath, but you see both players there, Jensen and Turtenwald, kind of talking things through and what should I do this turn? What do you think? Is there anything I can do to try to win this turn?
It looks like he can play, if he has 2 creatures and one of them is the Gnawing Zombie, then it's possible that he could win on his next upkeep.
Okay. Yeah, while he's decked, he can win on his upkeep.
He can do it on his upkeep.
Wow.
So I think that he needs to put 3 creatures into play. So he needs to have something like Molten Breath in his deck, or something that makes 2 creatures off of 1 card.
Okay. Yeah, options are limited.
Yes.
And he's only got 2 cards in his hand too. What can he do? Goes to his attack step, Frost Breath, tap both of those, does 11.
So, a little frosty over there.
I think that might be that sinking feeling, but he's going to keep playing. Let's see what this is. Blood Baron.
It's another Blood Baron.
Pass the turn back.
So, no Gnawing Zombie.
Yeah. Levin going to untap very quickly. Sea Skite is his draw step. Okay. And as soon as Levin said, I'm going to mill you, Turtenwald can seize the game so he doesn't give away the information.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just wants to make him go through it and make him do it. So, Drew Levin going to even it up 1-1. Again, Huey Jensen's already won his match, so looks like we're going to try to cut over to Jarvis Yu, Reed Duke. Again, Jarvis Yu up a game over there over Mr. Duke.
Yep, able to draw the Corrupt able to draw the 6th Swamp just in the nick of time. After searching up the Corrupt, one of 2 that he has. As you see in the background, we have Harry Corvasi and Gerard Fabiano birding this match. That's a team, along with AJ Soccer, that I believe is X2.
Yeah.
So they are not in top 12/top 4 contention. The current board state looks as if there's that Seacoast Drake that everyone loves, as well as another 1-power creature with higher toughness, Archaeomancer. Ring of 3 Wishes also in play.
Surprise.
It has gotten through Wish 1 and 2. On Jarvis' side of the board, one of his creatures has claustrophobia, so he's going to be stuck in the box. And there's a Blood Baron and a Corpse Hauler in play as well, with Reed at 8.
So, the funny thing is we're always going to walk into a game where Reed is low on life because, again, he's using his Ice Total as a resource with his deck. He wants the game to go long, and then, he's able to finally turn the corner, cast Rise of the Dark Realms, and actually kill the opponent. And you see he's got plenty of lands in play right now, and he has the ring going to work. The problem here is that, again, Jarvis is able to do enough incremental damage over the initial turns of the game that his corrupts actually start becoming lethal.
Absolutely.
And that's what we saw in game number 1. Jarvis is going to play the Minotaur Abomination, the 4/6 with a story to tell, and pass a turn back.
Yep, that's 2 dudes stapled together. I like that this card and Undead Minotaur's flavor text are connected. This flavor text is the Necromancer Leston saying, "This is awful, look at this thing," and then the Undead Minotaur is like, "Now that's a good piece of work."
So here is a Water Servant for Mr. Duke. You taking the time to read it, make sure he knows what it does.
Yep, Water Servant has the 4th and 5th abilities of Morphling, basically.
Yeah.
But for blue mana.
Yep.
It's a serviceable creature. I'm a big fan of it.
You gonna tap 5 mana. There is a Liturgy of Blood. Gonna take care of that Water Servant so that his creatures can actually get into the red zone.
Yeah, that 4/5 is just gonna or 3/4 is just gonna gum up the board to the point where Jarvis isn't going to be able to do anything. Even though he has that sacrifice outlet, the Nantucko Husk in the form of Blood Baron, that could be a 4/4, could be a 6/6, but it's just going to gum up the problem, and he would rather use his elimination spell on something that's a little unimpressive, a Water Servant, but there also aren't a ton of great options in Reed's deck, and that's probably one of the best ones.
Sure.
Reed, I think, is probably deciding whether he wants to counter this spell. He does have a cancel in his deck, and I believe he has 2 negates in his sideboard. So, and certainly those came in to deal with Corrupt.
Yeah, I would think almost assuredly those came in. The fact that he can tutor up a counter spell is a big deal for his deck.
Absolutely. Now, he does have 5 mana up, which means that if he decides to negate here, or cancel, but he is going to use negate, then he's not going to be able to use the ring this end step.
Now you see Jarvis deciding, how do I want to attack? What's going to happen if I do attack? What's going to live? What's going to die? How can Reed potentially block right now? And this is always interesting because, like, when you move the creatures like that up to other creatures to what you think is going to happen, for some, depending on your level of player, that can be very helpful for you. It can be very detrimental to you because you can be giving information about how they can block.
Right.
When you're playing against a player of reduced caliber, I think it's perfectly fine to do that because I think Reed is good enough to figure out how he could block or see the different ways he can block.
Absolutely. Reed, obviously, basically everything's in Reed's wheelhouse, but particularly in sort of control and control matchups that have a lot of creatures. Band control, Jund, etc. Jarvis has a very similar wheelhouse, actually. He likes playing the band control decks. He likes playing any number of Thragtusk decks that like to gum up the board. So both of these players are comfortable in these sort of matchups, where there's a lot of stuff happening outside of the red zone, but there is some complicated red zone things happening.
Yeah.
And so Reed is still going to be behind the 8 ball here. Jarvis decided to just jam with everything. I think that his body language suggests that he didn't really want to play around anything anymore, and that he needs to just get it over with.
Yeah, I really feel like, again, the game doesn't want to go long. Jarvis has 6 lands. He may or may not have Corrupt in his hand. He may just be trying to draw towards Corrupt, but he wants to get Duke under, like, at 6.
Yes.
Because he has 6 lands in play, so he needs to do what it takes to get him underneath that.
Now, here's the thing about that, though. Reed has 8 lands in play. He has a ring with a wish left. So he can always just wish for negate and negate with the 7 mana. That's an expensive counterspell. But hey, if you're going to die, then I would wish to not die.
Yes.
So
the dust is settled. Damage comes through.
And Water Servant also survives. So we now have a stapled together Minotaur in play, as well as a embodiment of Water Spirit.
Is this a... Okay, that's Claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia.
Water Servant's going to come across. It's going to deal some damage.
It's going to deal 4.
Yep, and Duke is going to pass with 5 mana available to be able to Wish. Quag Sickness is the draw for Jarvis this turn. He's going to attempt to Corrupt. There is a cancel. That gets countered.
Yep.
Doesn't allow Duke to Wish for this turn, but
hey.
Counterspell's certainly good enough.
Yeah. And that, I think that was the window Jarvis wanted. He saw that Duke left up 5 mana and was like, well, he's just planning on wishing for the counterspell, I guess. Unfortunately for him, Reed now is up to 3, I believe, just the 3 counterspells in the main, but was able to use it. Oh.
Jarvis is going to cast Corrupt, and Reed's going to be able to use the Wish
to go get Negate.
To go find Negate, just like you mentioned.
That's right.
Negate the Corrupt, and now both of Jarvis's Corrupts are taken care of now.
Look, Jarvis had a plan. His plan was, well, I'm going to corrupt you. If you counter it, I'm going to corrupt you again. If you've got 2 counterspells left in your deck, okay.
Yeah.
And guess what? Turns out Reed Duke had a counterspell left in his deck and a cancel in hand.
Is it possible that Jarvis could have baited out that Corrupt with the Quag Sickness in his hand? Who knows? We'll never know now.
Probably not. I don't think that, because the Quag Sickness wouldn't have sped the clock up at any point. So I think Reed would have just let that resolve.
And now Diabolic Tutor.
So does Reed think that Jarvis has a 3rd Corrupt in his deck?
Well, I don't know if he thinks that, or I don't know if there's anything he can do about it, because he's out of wishes.
Right. So Jarvis isn't immediately grabbing a card.
Yes.
I think that means that Reed thinks, okay, I'm not just dead. Which means that he doesn't have the 3rd Corrupt.
Yeah, better yet, he's consulting his teammate on what to grab.
Yeah.
So it's very clear now that it isn't Corrupt.
It isn't Corrupt.
That much is obvious. Of course, you guys know at home, just like we do here in the booth, that there are only 2 Corrupts in Jarvis's deck list. He's cast them both. They've both been countered. So now this Diabolic Tutor is super important on what do I search for to try to win.
It's at this point that a more flamboyant player than Reed Duke would kiss his fingers and then point to the sky.
Yes.
Perhaps Owen is doing that next door, but I think that Reed is content in the knowledge that Corrupt number 3 isn't in his future.
All right, so Duke draws his card for the turn. He is going to play a Corpse Hauler. What to get back? That's actually a really good draw.
Yeah.
3 mana.
3 mana is going to be able to go get Archaeomancer if he wants it, but playing the Archaeomancer would leave him with only 1 mana up. Unless the extra land is in his hand, then he can have Negate mana with the Archaeomancer in play.
But how good is Negate right now? You know, would you rather?
If he's afraid of Corrupt is the only reason.
I can't imagine that he's afraid of Corrupt now. So now the question is he going to sacrifice this? Is he afraid of? I mean, is he going to get dispersed to try to reset his ring? Yep. So he does have the land. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So he can go get Negate if he wants.
Yep. He's going to get back. He gets back Disperse. He draws a card.
A Doomblade.
He searched. And that's what he searched for. He searched for the 2/3. He must have nothing good left in his deck to search for.
His resources have been exhausted. Deciding how he wants to use his Disperse, it's going to get him some wishes. And this is where Reed wants to be. He is so late in the game that his opponent is just low on breath, sweating, tired, ready for a nap. Meanwhile, Reed's just wishing for more wishes.
So there's the ring. Yet again, with enough mana to be able to search. And
I love this art, by the way. It's so unique in Magic. I don't think I've seen anything that looks like that.
That art's awesome.
Yeah, it's so good. Very powerful effect as well. I'm hoping to see some Battle of Wits tomorrow, because there are so many ways to search your library for it. And
I guess this is actually a way to do it now.
Yeah. So you've got Tutor, you've got Ring, you've got Diabolic Revelation. There's another one that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, there are at least 4 tutors now. As Doomblade takes care of the Archaeomancer, in comes the Undead Minotaur. It's going to put Duke down to 2.
Sure.
2's not 0.
2 is not 0.
So a ring activation. Yeah, there's Rise of the Dark Realms.
There's Rise.
You don't see Reed cast spells very quickly often, but yeah,
nope,
I need to cast this right
obvious.
now.
Yeah. He tried to tap his ring for mana. He was so excited about it. There's Rise of the Dark Realms. That's Liliana Vess's ultimate ability on a sorcerer, which I find awesome. Whenever they print brand name sorceries based on the Planeswalkers, like they did with Sorin's Vengeance or Sorin's Thirst.
So that's gonna tie it up. You saw Jarvis immediately concede the game, knowing that if he Diabolic Tutored for an Undead Minotaur, yeah, he's got no outs. So he's gonna concede the game. So we are going to go over to this other match here. We'll do our brought out view for you guys so we get that camera repaired for you.
Yep.
And we see Levin and we see Turtenwald going at it. And as soon as we can, we will cut into that match. Jason Ford lost his match to Huey Jensen. Jarvis Yu, Reed Duke tied up. We cut to the Levin Turtenwald match. We'll get our life totals updated for you guys just to make sure we're all good. We cut into double Wall of Frost, the Sea Skite, and a card that we have actually not seen be cast today.
Yeah, Flesh Pulper Giants.
Yes, the one that comes into play and squishes a creature with the toughness of 2 or less.
Yeah, was also recently in a Vorthos storytelling article on the Mothership, in which a goblin went out to go get something to go eat, and he got stepped on by a giant at the end, which was kind of awesome. There's the Flesh Pulper Giant. He's a 4/4 for 7, but he does have this. Usually, will Flame Tonkavu something. There's almost always something with toughness 2 or less on the battlefield for him to be able to deal with. And even if not, he's just a guy. That's fine.
So you saw Act of Treason take it. Levin blocks with his Wall of Frost, and Turtenwald sacrifices it to the Cauldron, passes the turn back. You see a lot of lands in play for both players. Turtenwald having more of them, so it's very clear to me that he's been flooding at some point this game, and now he's trying to come back. Levin has great defense up right now, though, in the form of multiple Wall of Frost and a couple fires to get some damage in. A Volcanic Geyser his draw step for the turn, but you always have to be aware when you're playing against Turtenwald's deck because there are so many Active Treasons you have to play around, and Levin has a Shivan Dragon in his hand that he's not casting. On purpose.
Yep, I think that's absolutely correct. He can't afford to let that card go away. He needs to just play with the 3 power flyers he has in play, not lose to his own cards, and he'll be fine.
And you saw that Turtenwald plays the Curse Spirit, the card that was able to win him game 1 and almost win him game number 2. Essence Scatter takes care of that. Levin untaps, he attacks for 3 more damage, passes the turn back yet again, building his mana base for a very, very large Volcanic Geyser.
Yeah, most of the time you'll see players leave extra lands in their hand.
Yeah, no reason to do that right now.
No, absolutely not, especially when you're leaving a Shivan Dragon in your hand. You can keep that behind and let your opponent guesses what you have in your hand. If you're playing out all these lands, what could you possibly be keeping back?
Essence Scatter, the draw for Levin. Quag Sickness took care of the Sea Skite. Turtenwald passes the turn back. Levin draws an island. In for 1 he goes. Gonna knock Turtenwald down to 10. There's a land.
Land
past the
10,
turn.
by the way. Owen's at 11. Drew needs to get to 12 to be able to fireball for 10, although it's going to be for 9 here. So he needs 1. If he has 1 more land, then the Geyser does it. ... Bubbling Cauldron's still in play.
Correct.
So as soon as Owen is able to find a creature, now we're going to see the dragon.
And the reason you see the dragon is because Levin has Negate in his hand. He has Negate and Essence Scatter, and he can play both. So there's Active Treason. I don't think so. Negate that immediately. We'll see if Turtenwald has another one.
No, it looks like he's got even more land in
Yeah,
his hand,
I see a mountain. Yeah, it looks like he has a swamp and something else. So Levin going to quickly untap after he immediately negates that Active Treason, draws his card. The card he draws is Disperse, super relevant here. Comes across for a bunch of damage with the dragon. Will he Fire Breathe or will he Fireball?
I think that he'll probably Fire Breathe for 1, just to sort of spread his numbers out.
Sure.
There's no reason for him not to, I suppose, unless he just wants to keep all of his mana for all of his instants.
He's going to disperse the Cauldron, going to force an activation with that on the stack, Fireball you, and that is going to do it. So Drew Levin is going to win this match 2-1 over former Player of the Year Owen Turtenwald, and that means we are going up to a very important and third final game between Jarvis Yu and Reed Duke to see which one of these teams is going to remain undefeated.
Absolutely, and be the last remaining undefeated team. Although, honestly, I would be surprised with how decently and how well this tournament has gone for them already, and how good players they all are, that we wouldn't see them again in the top 4, which I think would be a great rematch.
Well, I mean, this one has been good so far.
Yep. So if you're just joining us, I'm Ruben Bressler. I'm joined by Cedric Phillips. We're going to cut to the last match of this Yu Ford Levin against Team Huey Turtle Duke, Reed Duke, Huey Jensen, and Owen Turtenwald. We're in game 9 of this match. Reed Duke's deck has Rise of the Dark Realms and has Ring of 3 Wishes as its big heavy hitters. It wants the game to go as long as possible. Jarvis Yu, usually in that role, but he is has to take a slightly more aggressive tact in this matchup with his double corrupts. The matchup is basically going to play out with Reed usually having to use his life total as a resource. As you see here, he's going to take a bunch of damage and just keep playing some lands. And then he's going to get down to around 6. At which point Jarvis will try to resolve Corrupt, and Reed will either counter it or he will die. That is how the first 2 games have gone. And so we will see if we have a replacement or if we have the same deal in this game as well.
And it looks like Duke is flooding pretty badly here. You know, you see Jarvis with he's going to play another swamp. He has he has 1 Undead Minotaur and 2 Minotaur Abominations in play. He's going to finally tap some mana. He's going to play a Claustrophobia and pass the turn back. So Duke does not have a lot going on this game. Yu draws a card. It looks like that was a Blood Baron was the draw for the turn. You see him looking at his creatures. How do I want to attack?
Reed also has 9 mana, so at any point he can rise. Like the Dark Knight himself.
I was hoping you wouldn't make that joke.
Yeah,
I was really
apologize.
hoping you wouldn't make
I'm sorry.
that joke. Come on!
Look, man.
You're so much better than that.
Disagree. I have a reputation to keep of being awful with puns. Hashtag inning.
Corrupt gets negated, unsurprisingly. Duke is going to play Claustrophobia immediately. Jarvis is going to show him another Corrupt, and that is going to be it. We have a bit of an upset,
wow,
my friends. Jarvis Yu, Jason Ford, and Drew Levin defeat and give the reigning champions their first loss. Reed, Duke, Huey Jensen, Owen Turtenwald, they are human.
Apparently, well,
they are human.
Still debatable. They may yet win this tournament. They're still in great shape to make top 8 with only the 1 loss here late to the only remaining undefeated team of Jarvis Yu, Jason Ford, and Drew Levin.